I wasn't in the mood to make a scene, I just wanted to pick up a necklace. That's all. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon, and the store was practically empty when I walked in. Sleek glass cases lined the walls, showcasing diamond rings and gold watches under soft lighting. I was wearing a charcoal suit with matching heels, and my hair was pulled back in a neat twist. Classic, professional. I had just come from a board meeting across town. As I stepped up to the counter, the manager, a woman in her early 40s with icy blonde hair and a stiff blazer, glanced at me briefly before looking back down at her tablet. No greeting. No smile. I waited a moment, then said politely, "Hi, I'm here to pick up a custom piece I ordered last month. Last name's Taylor." She didn't look up. Instead, she replied curtly, "Custom pickups are for account holders only. No browsing or pickups without appointment." I blinked. "I am the account holder. This is my order." Now she looked up. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe like I'd wandered in by mistake. "We don't allow third-party pickups. I'll need to speak to whoever actually placed the order," she said, her voice firm and dismissive. I couldn't believe it. My name was literally engraved on the pendant. I opened my bag, pulled out the confirmation email on my tablet, and held it up. "Here's the invoice. Paid in full. You'll see my name, Dr. Camille Taylor." Still, she didn't move. Didn't apologize. Instead, she stepped back, crossed her arms, and said, "You'll need to come back with the actual client. Otherwise, I can't help you." My stomach clenched, not out of embarrassment, but something colder. I took a deep breath. Then I quietly pulled out my phone. "Fine," I said. "Let me call the owner. He'll sort this out." The moment I said owner, something flickered across her face, disbelief. Annoyance? I couldn't tell. She let out a sharp breath and muttered, "Ma'am, calling someone isn't going to change store policy. I'm trying to keep things professional here." I didn't answer. I had already scrolled to Daniel R. in my contacts and tapped the call button. The line rang once. Twice. Then, "Camille. Everything okay?" came Daniel's upbeat voice on the other end. "Not really," I said calmly, turning my back slightly from the manager, who now looked mildly confused. "I'm at your store on Bellevue. I came to pick up my necklace, but your manager here seems to think I'm not allowed." There was a pause. Then, sharper, "Wait, what?" "She said I need to bring in the actual client." Dead silence for 2 seconds. Then I heard a chair scrape and Daniel muttered something under his breath. "Give me a moment. Stay right there." Click. I turned around slowly and gave the manager a polite smile. "He'll be here shortly." She scoffed. "That won't make a difference. I follow company rules. Whoever you're calling doesn't change that." The arrogance in her voice was almost theatrical. I stepped back and waited, arms crossed. I didn't need to explain myself. Not anymore. 10 minutes later, the front door swung open. Daniel walked in fast, tall, mid-50s, silver hair slicked back, suit slightly wrinkled like he left in a hurry. His face was all storm clouds. The manager's posture straightened. "Oh. Daniel, hi, I was just handling what, Karen?" His voice cut the air like a blade. Her face froze. He turned to me and said warmly, "Camille, I'm so sorry. I'll take care of this." Then he looked back at her. Immediately. Karen blinked, her mouth slightly open. "Wait, Daniel, I was just following protocol." She didn't have an appointment, and I didn't recognize. Daniel held up a hand. "Stop." His tone was calm, but razor sharp. "You didn't recognize the woman who helped design our luxury executive collection? The one who's been a private client here for 6 years?" Her eyes widened. I didn't realize, you didn't ask, he snapped. You dismissed her. You assumed. And worst of all, you just embarrassed the only reason this store has survived the past 2 quarters. Karen glanced at me, panic creeping into her expression. I didn't mean anything personal. I was just trying to, Karen, enough. The room was quiet. Even the security guard at the back of the showroom looked like he was holding his breath. Daniel turned back to me. Camille, your necklace is in the private vault. Would you mind giving me a second to retrieve it for you personally? I nodded, calm but firm. Of course. As he walked away, he said over his shoulder, Karen, please wait in the back office. We'll discuss your final paycheck after Camille leaves. She stood frozen. Wait. What? You heard me, he said, not even turning around. Karen's face went pale. She slowly turned and walked toward the back, her heels clicking faintly on the floor. I stood there quietly, my arms folded again, not out of defiance, but patience. 2 minutes later, Daniel returned with a small velvet box. He opened it with a soft click, revealing the necklace. A thin gold chain with a diamond pendant, my initials, CT, etched in the back. Flawless, he said. Just like you asked. I smiled, finally. Thank you. He held the box out to me with both hands, like a gesture of respect. And again, I'm truly sorry. It won't happen again. I took the box gently. No, it won't. Daniel walked me to the front door himself. As we passed the other staff members, silent, eyes down, I felt the weight of the moment settle in. It wasn't about the necklace. It never really was. It was about how easily someone could decide you didn't belong. How quickly respect could be withheld until it was forced. At the door, Daniel paused. I want you to know, he said, lowering his voice, we're doing a full review of hiring and training procedures. This kind of judgment has no place in this store, or this brand. I nodded. Good. Because people don't forget how they're treated. He opened the door for me, the sunlight spilling in across the marble floor. If there's anything else you need, Camille, anything, you call me directly. I will, I said, stepping out. Take care, Daniel. As the door closed behind me, I caught a final glimpse of Karen being led into the back office, her expression stunned and uncomprehending. Outside, I paused, looked down at the little box in my hand, then slipped it into my purse. My driver opened the car door. I climbed in, sat back against the seat, and let the silence settle around me. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. But it was the first time someone paid a price for it, right then, right there. And somehow, that made it feel just a little different. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Just 4 words, handled. Thank you, Camille. No long explanations. No excuses. Just accountability. I sat at my kitchen table, the necklace resting in its box beside a cup of untouched tea. Then came another message, this time from a different number. A junior associate I'd once mentored had heard about the incident already. The word had gotten around. Saw what happened at Bellevue. Proud of how you handled it. We needed that win. I looked out the window at the city skyline. It was strange, how even a quiet confrontation in a boutique could ripple through boardrooms and office lounges. Because it wasn't just about me. It was about every woman, every professional, every client who walked into a space and was made to feel small. And now, one less place where that could happen unnoticed. I reached for the necklace, clipped it around my neck, and caught my reflection in the window. No fanfare. No headlines. Just quiet proof that dignity, when defended, can echo louder than disrespect ever could. The next morning, my inbox was full. 3 emails were from other business owners in the area, 2 offering apologies for things they'd never done but wanted to acknowledge anyway. The third was from a national retail magazine asking for a quote about leadership under pressure. I declined the interview. This wasn't about publicity. But one message stood out. It was from a young employee at the same jewelry store, someone I'd never met. "Hi Dr. Taylor. I just wanted to say thank you. A lot of us saw how things went down yesterday, and, well, it changed the mood around here. People are asking better questions now. Management is listening. I think it made a real difference. Just thought you should know." I stared at the message for a while. This hadn't been a speech. I hadn't demanded change. I hadn't raised my voice. I just stood there and made sure I was seen. And somehow, that was enough to shift the air in a place that badly needed it. Sometimes, it doesn't take a crowd. Sometimes, it only takes one person not walking away. A week passed. I didn't bring it up in meetings. I didn't tweet about it. I didn't post a single thing on LinkedIn. But quietly, things began to happen. Daniel reached out again, this time to invite me to speak privately with his executive team. Not for show. Not to lecture. Just, to listen and be heard. He said something during that call that stuck with me. It took 7 minutes for a situation to spiral, but only one decision to make it right. That was the truth. The manager had made assumptions. Daniel made a choice. And I made a statement without saying much at all. That necklace? I wore it again that Friday, this time to a charity gala where no one cared about where it came from. They just noticed how it caught the light. But I knew. It wasn't just jewelry anymore. It was a quiet symbol. A reminder. That respect isn't requested, it's expected. And when denied, it will be remembered. 10 days later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened to the message. "Hi, Dr. Taylor. This is Karen. I wanted to reach out. I know I don't deserve your time, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. I realized how quickly I judged someone who built more in a decade than I've even tried in my life. I didn't see you. And I'm sorry. Not for getting fired, but for how I treated you. You didn't owe me anything, but you gave me a moment I won't forget." I sat in silence for a moment after it ended. It didn't change what happened. And I didn't need the apology. But still, it meant something. Not because it erased anything. But because it proved that even when you don't shout, you can still leave echoes behind. Not all stories end with apologies. Mine didn't need one. But the fact that one came at all. That was the quiet power of holding your ground. Not for revenge. But for the lesson. 2 months later, I returned to that same shopping district. Not to prove a point, just to pick up a gift for my niece. As I passed by the jewelry store, I noticed something different. A new manager stood at the front, young, warm smile, greeting every person who walked in without hesitation. I kept walking. But just before I turned the corner, I heard someone behind me call out, "Dr. Taylor." I turned. It was the new manager. She walked up, a bit nervous. "I just wanted to say. I've read the report. About what happened. And I want you to know, your story is now part of our training materials. We actually discuss it with every new hire." I blinked. "You're kidding." She shook her head. "Not at all. It's called the 7-minute standard. The idea is simple, it only takes a few minutes to decide who we are as a brand, and who we stand for. We use your story to teach that." I smiled, small but sincere. "Well, I hope it serves you better than silence ever did." She nodded. "It already has." I walked away after that. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. Because real change, it doesn't come from noise. It comes from memory. From stories people choose not to forget. And apparently, mine had become one of them. The following quarter, I received an invitation. Not to shop. Not to speak. To consult. Daniel had launched a new initiative, a leadership and accountability council focused on inclusion, empathy, and service integrity across all of his retail brands. He asked me to chair it. I didn't say yes right away. I took my time. Thought about it. Because I didn't want to be part of a committee that checked boxes. I wanted to shape something real. When I finally agreed, I made only one request: if we're going to talk about standards, then let's make sure they're designed for people, not just policy. He agreed. And so, every new store manager, across 3 states, now receives a small handbook on day 1. The front cover is blank, except for a single sentence in embossed gold lettering: respect isn't a reaction. It's a requirement. That necklace I picked up that day. I wore it to our first meeting. Not as a reminder of what went wrong, but of everything that went right, afterward. 6 months later, during an industry summit in Chicago, I was approached by a young woman after my panel discussion. She introduced herself as a retail intern. Nervous. Eager. I don't mean to bother you, she said, clutching her badge, but I just wanted to say. I'm the reason my store doesn't make assumptions anymore. I raised an eyebrow. She smiled. We studied your story in our onboarding. It stuck with me. A few weeks ago, I stopped my manager from brushing off a customer who didn't look like a buyer. And guess what? She turned out to be a supplier visiting unannounced. That moment changed how we treat everyone now. I couldn't help but smile. Good. Then the message traveled further than I ever could have. She nodded, then added softly, thank you for not shouting. You made quiet strength powerful. After she walked off, I stood still for a long moment. There were no headlines that day. No cameras. Just a quiet hallway in a convention center where I realized something permanent had been etched, not into metal, but into mindset. The necklace I wore that day. Still the same one. Still catching the light. But now, it felt heavier, not with the weight of injustice, but with the responsibility of impact. Because sometimes the moment you say nothing, is the one people hear forever. A full year after the incident, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. No return address, just my name neatly scripted across the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of thick stationery. The handwriting was careful, a little shaky, but sincere. Dr. Taylor, you don't know me. I was a customer in the store that day. I didn't say anything, I was just there to browse. But I watched everything happen. I saw how calm you stayed. How steady. And how swiftly the air changed once the truth was clear. I've thought about it many times since then. About how many times I've stayed silent in moments like that. I wanted you to know, I've spoken up twice since. Once for a customer. Once for a coworker. Both times, I thought of you. Asterisk, there was no signature. Just a small pressed flower taped to the bottom corner of the page. I stared at the letter for a long time, then slipped it into the drawer where I kept other personal mementos, small reminders that didn't belong in headlines but mattered more than most. Because sometimes, the biggest change isn't seen on a spreadsheet. It's felt, in moments no one else witnesses. And in that drawer, alongside the quiet wins, I placed one more item, the original receipt from the day it all began. Faded. Folded. But never forgotten. 2 years to the day, I walked past that same storefront. Not on purpose, it just happened. The window display had changed. The logo had been redesigned. But something else caught my eye. Right near the entrance was a framed quote, elegant and subtle, etched into a small gold plaque: it only takes 7 minutes to lose trust, and just 1 moment of courage to earn it back. Below it, in tiny print, in honor of Dr. Camille Taylor. I stood there for a moment, not moving. Just, taking it in. No one rushed to greet me. No one looked past me. But this time, it wasn't because I was being ignored. It was because the people inside were focused, helping a young couple pick out engagement rings, smiling, listening, asking questions. They were present. That plaque wasn't about a scandal. It wasn't about punishment. It was about reminder. A permanent one. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. I turned and walked away with a quiet satisfaction, the necklace resting against my collarbone, a little heavier than usual, because this time, it didn't just shine. It stood for something. Something earned. Something remembered.